Welcome to the Deeks.ai podcast, where Wake Forest innovators unpack the real-world magic of artificial intelligence through candid conversations. I'm Michael Ferrari.
I'm Ryan Scholl.
Please join us as we explore how artificial intelligence is transforming work across campus, one fascinating story at a time. Wake Forest alumnus and managing director and founder of Microsoft's Federal Security, Compliance, and Identity Customer Success Organization, Jay Bhalodia, is on the front lines of the cyber war. This digital battlefield doesn't have borders or bullets, it has IP addresses and bytes. Jay provides a masterclass on the asymmetric war currently playing out in our digital infrastructure. We discuss the strategic necessity of adopting AI tools to counter state-sponsored threats and why the balance of power in global security now depends on who can scale their good bots the fastest. When the malware is defeated, he uses this superintelligence to plan family trips and create My Little Pony stories with his daughter.
Welcome to Deeks.ai, the #1 higher education artificial intelligence podcast at Wake Forest University. We are back with our alumni series. This week, we have a special alum who I believe hasn't been at Wake for close to 25 years. So I'm very interested to know if he's going to come back for homecoming this year. I think it's a reunion year, so we'll have to figure that out. But with us today, we have Jay Bhalodia, who, let's see, he's had some varying careers over the years, but currently he's at Microsoft. And I'm going to say that Gemini pulled some interesting information about him that said Jay Bhalodia is a central figure in the tactical deployment of generative AI, within the United States federal government. And that's definitely somewhere you want to be right now with the media narrative. So, Jay, welcome to the podcast. And I'm not sure if you want to touch on that comment by Gemini at all, but welcome.
Yeah, hey, it's good to be out at one of these things as an alumni versus a representative of Microsoft. But I will say that maybe if you'd asked Copilot the questions, it might have come back with something different. So,
well played, Jay. Very well played.
What I'll say is it had some things right. I mean, so I
had your name right.
It had the name right. It had the company right. It had the customer set right. I do work with our federal government, but I'm actually on the customer success side of it, and I lead our security practice for Microsoft Federal for customer success. So if a customer has any of our security products and solutions, my team is making sure that they're able to achieve the mission with those capabilities. So we are on the edge of the generative AI conversation. We're on the edge of making sure that the customers have the trust of being able to deploy these technologies.
Well, fantastic. Now, Jay, a lot has been made about Microsoft and their role in the AI world, and obviously some of the relationships with AI. So clearly, since you guys are an AI company, you knew about ChatGPT way before everybody else, right?
It's interesting. Every company has kind of their structure and their who's and their hows. When we hear about some of these formal announcements and what happens, I'm a consumer of that just as much as you all are, right? We have people that are working on these partnerships. We have people that are working with these technologies, and they're absolutely aware of everything and what's going on. My role is supporting our field, supporting our customers. So sometimes I hear about things just the same way y'all do. But sometimes we get that early note. Maybe it's like the day before things go release. So it is pretty tight as far as being able to know about what's coming, where things are coming. But the nice thing is once those things land, we do have the skilling, the training, the access to be able to really experience some of those things. And like you said, hey, we're an AI company, so they ask us to go first party with like, hey, be customer zero, be the ones using these things.
So what you're saying is you are hit in the face with the frying pan when this was released commercially on the world like the rest of us. Is that a fair statement?
Me personally, yeah.
So it's quite interesting. What were the early days like when AI started permeating your world?
I think it's probably similar to things that you all experienced. I was using it personally. I was using it a lot more personally. And it was kind of playing around, learning. Like, I mean, as a technologist, that's just what you do, right? And it's just, hey, this is kind of cool. Let me see what I can do with it. And so that's a lot of what the early days were like. Pretty fast in, we're starting to see the capabilities, we're starting to see the business applicabilities, and we started talking about a set of champions. Hey, maybe we should get a pro membership for a set of X number of people to really see how this applies to what we do and where we go through our business. And then as you see kind of more and more like just permeate through all of industry, we got early access to things like Copilot, and we started using those. We're fully up and running on what we can and can't do to Copilot. We've got a lot of like moving into the next iterations of building low code, no code agents, and we've got some folks doing some crazy wild things where they're taking projects and having agents that just operate their projects for them, so they can take on two or three projects at the same time. So it's
Wow.
been pretty cool to see the evolution, and I think the rate and the pace of change hasn't really even hit max peak yet.
So I think our listeners would be very interested in hearing specifically about your job role and how you integrate some of the AI tools into that.
Yeah, great question. And like my role is it's again, I mentioned like it's a field organization. So
Hmm.
our job is almost in the sense of like consultancy. It's to help our customers be successful with our products, right? Pure traditional, what you think of as customer success, if you're familiar with that industry term. So we have a few ways that we look at and we apply these things. As a leader of an organization, we've got 100 some people. I'm looking at what is it going to be to sustain success in that organization, and the expectations continue to increase because the capabilities increase. And if my team doesn't know how to apply these technologies to become more effective, more efficient, well, that's going to be a lot of stress and strain across the organization. So, one aspect of this is how do we take the technology? How do I apply it for me to be better at what I do? And that's internal, administrative, operational, those type of things. And that's definitely an area of how do I make sure my team is able to increase their efficiency. They're able to, maintain relevancy in some of what it means to work in an AI world. And because we have access to tools and training, my goal is to push my team over to the edge of that and see how they can incorporate that. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, as I mentioned, we're a customer facing organization. So what are our customers doing in this space? I work in security in particular, and we have a set of operation and set of capabilities built into our tools that integrate AI. And so we're using those things, we're coaching our customers on how to use those things. But I think every industry, no matter what it is, you're going to be finding ways to incorporate AI, agentic, all these things into your business. And that's where I'm really like stretching for innovation. It's how do we help our customer with their mission of security and cyber by applying AI to that mission? Right? So there's multiple tiers here. There's the I've got to make myself more productive for what I'm trying to do, whether that's email triage, whether that's like being able to offload writing impact statements on my assessment, right? Like how do I make that more strong? That's one side of it. Then there's the AI is built into my solutions. How do I help people adopt the things that are co-built in? And then finally, there's the how do I move in that world of kind of custom AI applied to my customer's mission? How do I be a steward of Microsoft and maybe pull through the experts that know the deep of how do we build these things, but I understand kind of that mission use case.
So we are fully entrenched in the world of academia, and your perspective out in the world of industry is going to be very important here, and it's going to be eye-opening for some people. When you're working with your customers,
Uh-huh.
do you see a lot of them are already integrating AI into their business processes, or are they still dipping their toe in the water? Do a lot of them have agentic workflows? Where in that AI adoption slash fluency slash AI forward process are they?
I don't think it's any different than anywhere else. And look, like I mentioned, I work with our government customers. I think they're also like looking at what, where, and how this helps us provide greater service and greater mission for what they're accountable to deliver. So I think you see varying like areas of maturity on this. You see some folks that are going to be early adopters, they're all in and they're like custom coding things. You see some folks that are going to be on like a little bit of a let me wait and see. They may be playing with the different layers of prompting and trying to understand like what are the capabilities that maybe are kind of accessible. And you see some folks that are on that path of like I don't know about this thing, I don't trust this thing. Change is hard. change is really hard. And I think that you see that across industry, and it's not any one industry. I think you just see people at different parts of the arc on this right now.
Are there like any consistent like commonalities that you come across for the people who are a bit more skeptical? Um,
It's funny because I tend to get involved in those customers because usually some of the things where it comes to being skeptical are around, can I trust it? Can I trust it with my data? Is this going to be, something that reduces my ability to control what happens in my enterprise? So we tend to get a lot of those kind of conversations, and I might be biased because, like I said, I work in security, so those are the things that hit my plate. So there is a lot of, and this is another piece of technology. We
mhm.
had these exact same conversations whenever cloud was permeating, right? Like, say it was a, can I trust cloud? Can I move my data into cloud?
Yeah,
Dude, like people don't ask those questions anymore, right? There was this whole posture shift from cloud is not secure to actually cloud is more secure, and I don't have to worry about the patching and these kind of things. And I think you'll see
yeah,
the same kind of arc with this as well. So from a security perspective, I think it's one of those like people need the knowledge of how these things operate to then
yeah,
understand, okay, here's what's really happening, right? Is someone taking my data and then is someone else going to be able to process it? It depends on the model, right? A lot of what we do, like
yeah,
for example, a Copilot, that Copilot sits in your tenant in your Azure environment, like foundationally, right? And it's processing everything within the confines of that tenant. That data never leaves. Models don't get trained on it, so it's contained, right?
yeah.
If you custom build something, you have to build those protections in. I'm doing my pitch right now. This is great. Like, this is the conversation I have to have when people are asking about, like, I don't know about this thing. Those are the
I,
type of things we get.
I do have a quick request.
Yeah.
Can you talk to Mustafa or Satya or somebody about the naming conventions? You have about 74 products named Copilot, and it's very, very confusing.
I have not taken a job in the marketing department. I'm a operational security person, and we are the last people you want naming things.
Okay, well then let's talk something about security. Let's go right into your wheelhouse,
Oh boy.
especially with OpenClaw taking over everything at the moment. Are we just now at bot versus bot? Like how do you have any hair left in the security world? How is this working? Like can humans on, the good guys, can we keep up with the AI attacks and vice versa? Is the AI getting so good on our defensive side that hey, the humans can't break in anymore?
Yeah, it's one of those like, are we adding symmetry to an asymmetric war, right? Like that's kind of where I look at that. This to me is one of those innovations that gives us the on the defensive side the ability to scale and innovate that we haven't had. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there is a volume of attack that's possible here too, right? So that's exactly what it is. It's hey, we've got this capability and it can be used on both sides of the equation, and how we adopt it, how we deploy it is going to create that level of like symmetry or asymmetry. So I absolutely think it's a capability that's we're already using on defensive side. And there's no question on
It
that.
seems like you have to use it on the
Yeah.
defensive side because
Hmm.
you can't even keep up anymore if you're not using AI.
I mean, for anything. I mean, even when we start talking about like, I mean, look, if even if I start talking about things like hiring and the number of resumes we get now, you have to be able to analyze large volumes of data and do it in ways that provide context, not just mapping for like a phrase or a pattern or a signature. And so that's to me where it absolutely plays and comes in.
Interesting. So you mentioned hiring a little bit. Are you coming back for homecoming?
You see, you're trying to get me to commit on audio, live on air. I appreciate the recruitment pitch. You're gonna have to talk to my wife on that. I think
Well,
we are in
I'll
conversation.
give her a call. That's not a problem. But I'm just wondering. So when you come back for
Okay.
homecoming, you can talk to some of our students. But what is it like in this hiring process? What's it like with entry level jobs now?
It's funny. I'm wearing my like my cyber hero t-shirt and everything. I
We're not a
just
video podcast, Jay.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
sorry.
But like we can create that visual in the mind. And so I literally just came from the Women in Cyber conference that's happening in DC right now, premier organization. I'm part of a partnership with them. And I was part, I joined up with some of our team that's staff in that booth. And I would say about like 50 to 60% of the folks that came up were, hey, I'm in college, I'm looking for what the next thing is for me. And and looking for what that entry level role looks like. Um, and I'm not sure where you want to take this, so we can go in multiple directions on this because there's a whole conversation on like how does AI apply to entry level jobs and what is the impact to entry level jobs. There's also the as a manager, what are you looking for in people how people use AI? Like where should we take this conversation?
Well, first, we've recently had some conversations with some students,
Yeah.
and the older students, they're out there looking for jobs now, and they say that almost everything you apply for, there's, people throw in the keywords and the buzzwords about you need to be AI fluent or AI forward. So it's now a qualification. I guess is that pretty standard in your field that the students need to know about artificial intelligence and need to understand how to use it?
I mean, I think that's just I appreciate that we're saying that like, hey, this is kind of like something that is part of a requirement. I think it's just part of being able to work in the workforce. That's
It's
where it's
like when you
going to
used
if
to
it's not
put,
there already.
proficiency with Microsoft Word on your resume.
Yeah, I mean, so it's almost like, do you really should people really have to put it in the resume? Maybe right now because we're at like early stages of adoption. Someone asked me a question. It's like, well, what about this person that put their resume together and they use like AI tools and therefore their resume is stronger and is standing out more? Does that give an unfair advantage? And I was like, yeah, but I want to hire the person that knows how to do these things because they're going
Hmm.
to need to apply that in the job, right? There's this context of using AI as quote unquote cheating, and I don't really look at it that way. It's finding a way to get to your best self, and I look at it as a tool that helps you be more effective. So I absolutely want to have those folks that are using the AI as part of the set of candidates that we're evaluating because guess what? Like I just said, we're customer zero. We're going to ask them to do it when they get here. So no, I mean, I think it's something that being where we are at Microsoft, I kind of expect that kind of table stakes that people are doing it, but I don't write my requisitions to it because it's not necessarily about do you have experience, it's about do you have an interest in an approach that integrates it, right? We can teach you, we've got the tools, we've got the resources, we've got the abilities to like give you the ways to grow into that, but are you looking to do that as part of how you move?
And it seems like with what you've just said, that there's still that space for those entry level workers to come in.
Yeah, my industry is very interesting and unique in some ways. If you read any kind of report on any kind of cyber workforce conversation, they talk about the fact that there aren't enough people in the industry in workforce, and therefore there is a lot of like, how do we use AI? And I think there's a conversation on is AI taking away entry level jobs? And I was like, oh, the Microsoft guy just said AI. No, that's not what I'm saying. There's a lot of conversation on that. The challenge here is it's a leadership issue. Leaders need to build roles, positions, and jobs such that AI is accelerating people from being entry level to being
Mhm.
mid-career, right? AI should be able to help people get more efficient, get more effective. Like the part of the like knowledge base that you need to have, like part of the, hey, you only know this if you've seen it. We can eliminate that barrier to getting to that mid-level because of the fact that we can, have people learn from AI. But if we go down the path as leaders of saying, hey, this job is something that's very structured, very easy, I can automate it, so let's get rid of it. I mean, we kill the future of our entire workforce, right? So we can't
Mhm.
automate out the entry level jobs. What we have to do is how do we apply AI to help that entry level person become more impactful and become essentially what, like mid is the new entry, essentially.
I'm cutting out that clip and sending it to every one of our students. You put that fantastically. Thank you very much for that. Tell us a little bit more about how you are implementing it with some of your customers, or maybe how your customers are implementing it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go into any like sensitivities or anything like that, but I think we're nibbling on the edges of what's possible with AI. I think a lot of where people are applying it's still in kind of like an analytic model. It's still in the context of I've got this volume of data. How do I rationalize across this volume of data? It hasn't moved into full on like reasoning mode from what I've seen. And so what people are, but it is broader than just pattern matching, right? So that's kind of what where I've seen, at least in my space. We're looking at it and saying like, hey, how
MySpace
do
doesn't exist anymore. Sorry.
rest in peace. No, I mean that's what I'm typically seeing.
So we've talked a little bit about your role with your customers. What is the internal office culture like in Microsoft with artificial intelligence? Do you just have humanoid robots walking around typing up TPS reports? Or, I mean, has
If the answer is
efficiency
no, I'm going to
is
be very
efficiency?
bummed, by the way.
We're building the robots to do our TPS reports for us. That's what that's like. No, I mean, it's interesting to see how it's starting to roll its way into some of what we do. We have so then I'll give you we have a newsletter that we provide regularly weekly for my team. And it's been like this typed out thing, and I don't know how many people like actually really used to read it. But now we feed that into Copilot, and it creates a podcast for us. We're not
Okay.
automating your job away. It's the personality is not quite where we'd want it, but it kind of makes it kitschy and fun. It feels like it's like, like the
Michael
SNL like
uses
use-up clip.
11 labs for my voice, so I mean, I already have
Once.
one
I
foot
did
out the
it
door.
once. One time. Let's relax.
Well, so I mean, so like, but like that's a way that we're taking this content, making it digestible in a quick bite, like 4 or 5 minute like listen to, and now you're caught up on the things that are happening, in a way that's just more efficient than it would have been otherwise. Like, I mean, I listen to it on my way to like the gym when I'm driving in the car. So that I mean, that's one example of kind of how we're applying it, in training. So we have trainings. I like I said, I sit in a customer service organization, and part of what you have to learn and skill on is how do you have a conversation with a customer, and that's really hard to like emulate at scale from a training perspective. Because when you think about it, that means someone has to be sitting on the other side, asking me the question, listening, giving me feedback, engaging in a conversation, then assessing me. Well, I've been doing trainings where that's all automated through AI. And so I have like a goal and objective, have this conversation, the AI understands kind of what that goal and objective is, and then it scores me on how well did I do on my conversation, on my pitch, and on my communicating with clarity on what I'm doing, right? So like we've got training like that. My team has built out areas. So and this happens like regularly. Like, so this is like, I got a note last week where someone said, hey, for those of you all that have a hard time writing your own, we call them connects, like it's a self-review. Technologists sometimes like have a hard time expressing what they did to make an impact. Well, someone built like a agent that will you feed it what you did, and it'll show you and write out for you like here's what was impactful about what you did. So it helps you be more effective on your impact review. For some folks, that's like organic and instantaneous, and they just do it. For some folks, that takes them like a whole weekend of time just to figure out how to say what they did, and now they can do that in like minutes, right? So I mean, and that was just a mail blast. Someone built it out and said, hey, let me send it to the entire organization that like, hey, this is something that's available in case you need it for what you're doing. So yeah, it's absolutely part of the culture.
Now, you obviously live inside of a creative, innovative institution. I mean, Microsoft has been, I mean, you've brilliant people who create things all the time, but do you see now anybody can be an innovator? Anybody can be a creator? You're talking about somebody who just, built this mail blast and did it. With the advent of agentic coding or
Yeah.
some of these other tools, do you see more of that inside the organization?
When we see inside the organization, I'm giving an outside the organization example. I was talking to my trainer, and he was talking to me about like, hey, how do I help my kids with coding? I was like, well, what are they doing? He's like, well, they just go to Gemini and they ask for this, and it builds like the whole thing for them, and they just run the code, and now they're playing the games that they wanted built. These kids are not yet in high school,
Hmm.
right? Like they're like 10, 12 years old kind of, and they're vibe coding with Gemini.
Yeah.
And what's funny is he and I were talking about like, well, let's take it a level back so that they understand the logic, they understand the syntax, they understand these
Hmm.
things, right? And so yeah, anyway, I mean, My daughter has taken Copilot to the next level. She's built and developed entire like comic books. She's a fan of the My Little Pony series and pandas, and she built like a whole story in a comic book. Like I looked at what she built and I was like, this wasn't done by like a graphic artist, right? So I mean, it can anyone? Absolutely can anyone. What's the barrier? Like just going out and doing it and being afraid that you're going to do something wrong. Like it's with any
Mhm.
technology, just go out and play and go do stuff. Like that's how you get to it.
Yeah.
So those are examples to me of like can anyone when the 9, 10, and 12-year-olds are like doing some crazy things that like I couldn't like physically do myself. Yeah, absolutely anyone can. It might be easier for the
Yeah.
9 and 12-year-olds than the 40-year-olds like us.
I don't know where you get that, Jay. I think you've done your math wrong. I'm not.
This is
Are
your 20th anniversary of your 20th birthday?
are you seeing a good amount of people who because of these tools and what they offer now are kind of, I guess, growing their default roles beyond what they like their original, I guess you could say, job description are? Because like I know Ryan, I know myself, I'm seeing it allow me to do projects that like, you know, go beyond even what I'm not supposed to do, but it's enabling me to just, I say, get more things done and on a bigger way than I could have guessed.
Yeah, I mean that's part of that conversation on why do I want my team to learn it to increase personal productivity?
Hmm.
Because what you're talking about right now is the hey, I'm able to do 2, 3x what I would normally be able to do. And so therefore I'm able to like accomplish more. And that's all fine and well and good, but at some point the expectation bar is going to change to you are doing 2, 3x more, right? And that's going to become the expectation because you can use AI to do it. And so that's where I say it's critical for people to learn these skills and these capabilities because you're going to fall behind because you can't do 2 to 3x over time. That's as these skills like permeate the entire workforce, the expectation is that your productivity is going to be 2 to 3x more, right? And then how you use these things, how you innovate these things, and how effectively you can have whatever AI looks like do the things you need. That's where the skill comes in, right? Like I mean that level of prompting, like not everyone's prompt results in the same thing.
Yeah.
And so how do you get better at working with AI to get it to the outcome that you want it to be at? That's what's going to increase that productivity over time. So right now it's just using it. But next thing is going to be how well do you know how to use it to get to the outcome that you want?
I've seen a big correlation between how effective somebody is as a communicator with other human beings as how they are a communicator with the artificial intelligence. It's not your technical skills anymore, it's your
Yeah.
communication skills. The people who have a hard time communicating with people and just make assumptions that people will understand everything you're saying don't get that output like you're talking about with
Yeah.
the AI because they're not effectively communicating. So it's more about your communication skills, oddly, than your technical expertise.
But you know what? You can use AI to like help you coach and grow in that too, right? Like, I mean, um, uh, uh, maybe not communication skills, but one of the things for me in my career, I've been fairly opportunistic, right? Like someone picks up the phone and says, "Hey, here's an opportunity. You should come over and do this." Like, all right, great, I'll do that. Here's another one. Like, I mean, I can count on like, my 2 or 3 fingers, like how many times like I actually applied for something versus like, someone kind of pulled me through on something. And so one of the asks that I had as from my leadership
Is
was
that a
like,
humble brag?
I mean, I don't know if that's good or bad. But what's really hard for me is to say, this is what I want. This is where I want to be. This is my goal. This is my target. Um, that's just not a skill that I've practiced. And so I got
Mm.
asked to like put a career development plan together, and I was like dreading this thing. So what did I do? I filled out all the sections that are very factual. Like here's the career stuff that I've done. Here's the strengths for my strength finder assessment. Here's like the big impactful things that I did. I fed that into Copilot and I said, okay, ask me, you're going to be my career coach. Pretend that like you've got years of experience advising executives on where and how they should approach their career. I want you to ask me 5 questions, and based on 5 questions, let me know what you think my career goals should be. And if you need more information, you can continue asking me questions. It asked me a bunch of questions. I read the output of what we had as a conversation between me and Copilot, and at the end of it, I was like, wow, this is exactly what I'd love to do. Right. Okay. Now do the next one. Tell me what my next job should be. Right. Like, so it's one of these, like, you can engage the AI to help you, even if it's like a soft skill, a desire, an intent, like, those kind of things. You can engage it it became my career coach. Right. Like, so, if your challenges in communications, if your challenges in this, like, you can absolutely engage it to help, like, as a learning tool.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You can learn anything now. You can have it interview you. That's a
Yep.
skill most people don't understand.
Yeah.
Have it ask you questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was in a class for security leadership, and the gentleman training it was leaning forward into this space, and he's we're talking to a bunch of CISOs in the room, and he's like, well, what you can do is you can even put on voice mode, and you can have a whole conversation with AI. And he's like, so what I would do is, and this was an exercise in the class. He said, okay, this is the stuff you're trying to negotiate with the CFO and the board. What I want you to do is to put your content in and tell the AI tool to pretend to be a CFO, to have the core role and responsibilities, and ask you questions that it would ask, that you would have to defend against to get buy-in from a CFO.
Yeah.
And it got to a whole nother level as people started playing with it, because they started even giving it personalities of what their CFO is like, to say, like, act this way, or be like super nice, or be super mean, or, like, so I mean, it can simulate and emulate, like,
Mm.
whatever you need. And in that practice, like, how do we get better? We get better for practice. So in that
Yeah.
exercise of engaging with it, like, you get that practice to get better at whatever you need, including communicating.
Yeah. That
And
that that's that's a use I would love to see it really utilized more with, is because um, I know a handful of people who in education is what I would like to see it used in more, I should say, is because I know a handful of people who went to school for things that they just thought they should. They got degrees and then they ended up being like, actually, I don't like this at all. So I would love to see just kind of, um, you know, give students, maybe high school, maybe college level, let them kind of simulate what their job actually is. Like, if so, see if they really enjoy doing what they think they're gonna do.
we talked about, I think at one point with somebody else, having one of these conversations and you build a day in the life.
Yes.
So, you build a day in the life of a chief information security officer. You build a day in the life of a podcaster or a web developer. Just like you're talking about, Michael, walking through what that's actually like.
Yeah.
So I assume with Jay, it's your career. You wake up about 10:30, go sit on the beach for a while, finish about 12, take a 3 hour lunch, right? Is that what the day in the life for Jay Bhalodia is like?
Well, like, I'm not at the point where I've developed my AI, so I'm able to do that. No,
Are we
it's
actually
quite
talking
quite
to you, or
different.
is this a clone? Is this your digital twin?
If you really open that door, we'll get into some fun conversations, because there are security challenges associated to that space, on around deep fakes, and folks in different nations trying to pretend to be certain things, and getting actually employed through that.
I do want to take a step in that door because
Okay.
I have heard I have heard that there are certain people who are doing deep fakes and trying to get jobs from maybe nations that typically we don't hire from. And is that
It's
something that you have to combat?
So I'll say that this is not like something I'm regularly combating. This is one of these, like, student of industry kind of things for me. So, like,
Yeah.
it's my, like, Saturday scroll time, and I'm reading about things. But I think it's fairly well documented, that there are certain nations in particular that do this more often than others. And what they are doing is they are joining, like, virtual based interviews, and through the use of AI, they're getting access to jobs. And my industry in particular gets targeted with something like that, because when you start talking about, like, vulnerabilities for customers, your employees and what you give them access to, because they're trusted resources, is massive. And when you start talking about a organization that might be a third party service provider to IT, they have access to do things in your environments. And so that becomes a target for an adversary. How do I get myself in a position to have those access, those credentials? Well, there are opportunities to, like, fish, hack, whatever. But what if you just gave it to me because you thought I was your employee, right? So deep fakes in interviews are absolutely a real thing. I don't have a lot of details behind it. I can't give you a lot of summaries, but it is it's something that you can openly find examples of on the internet as well.
It'll be interesting to see how the verification process
That's it right there.
grows as we move forward. There's a company just recently which has been marketing. They've how you're able to create your digital twin now.
Well, and that's, I mean, it was interesting. I saw it for the first time. I did a post on LinkedIn actually relatively recently. And as I posted it, LinkedIn kind of flagged, hey, this image was generated with AI. And so it was identifying that like whatever I created, whatever I posted, it wasn't necessarily something that I built myself. Like so it's exactly what you said there. It's that authentication. And it goes back again into my domain because a lot of what people were looking at with securing AI was about let's protect the data so AI can't access it. Data security. Let's protect it. It's like, okay, yeah, that's an aspect of it, but there's so much more, right? You have to, I mean, it's just the core tenets of what we do in security. You have to have an identity, and that identity has to have certain levels of what it can access. That identity can be a human entity or a non-human entity. There's no reason to say, at least in the IT context, that it has to be a human entity. And so once you know what your identity is, once you know what rights you're giving to that entity, everything else is the same, right? So when you look at the model behind securing Copilot and what it does and doesn't have access to, Copilot just acts on your behalf. Everything that you have access to, Copilot has access to. So if you were to, all of a sudden use Copilot and ask a question about like, I want to see these crazy financial reports and find these credit card statements, if you don't have access to it, you can't see it because it's built into the access model of how that technology operates. And so that core of identity and then providing what access that identity should have, it's a big part of it. It is the whole ball game there. It's the you got to know who it is that's acting, and you got to know what you are willing to give that individual access to.
You just broke my mind because I mean we mentioned digital twins and everything, but with the open clawification of the world given this week or however we want to mark time anymore, people are spinning up these open claws every second of the day, and there's no more Mac Minis anymore because everybody's running this. So I can only imagine how you do identity when a single person can have tens, 20, hundreds, millions of their own OpenClaw agents out there. That's
It's wild to think about, right? And
wow.
it's what you decide as an individual to give access to. It's what you decide as an enterprise that people can and can't use technology. Part of what we, and this is like getting into theoretical where things may go for my industry. Part of what we look at is like that context of insider risk. What are the behavioral patterns that might result in a risk to your organization? And right now we do that for really looking at human behavioral patterns. I think over time we're going to be doing that same thing for non-human entities. So like, what is a non-human insider risk? What is a human insider risk? Right? Intent may not have to be part of that equation. Is the non-human insider, which is some kind of agentic, is it inadvertently or intentionally accessing or doing things that it shouldn't do, and how do you govern that, right? Like, so it's really wild to think about, like, and this is stuff that geeks me out. It's really wild to think about where our where our industry is going in the future. So hey, for those of you all that are interested in job in cybersecurity, the job market is rife with opportunity.
Well, I'm glad you're doing it and not me because my brain is broken thinking about that right now.
I love it, man. This is stuff that keeps me giving me energy.
Okay, so since since I'm turned to mush, let's leave the Microsoft world for a second, security world. Let's talk about something a little different. Some personal uses. You've talked about using it with your daughter and some other things,
Yeah.
but um, you had a good story about a trip planning.
Yeah. We're about to take that trip in a couple weeks here too, actually. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's just this is just how it's like pervasive across like everything I do. I am the person. There's always the one. I'm the person in the family that does like all the like planning and the logistics and like the we're gonna do this and booking that, and so that's my job. That's part. I mean, it gives me energy to do it. And historically, it has taken lots of time to do. It's just what are all the options? Okay, let's pick a city. Okay, now like let me go to the trip advisors. What are the top like 50 things and the things to do? And like, okay, well, yeah, and you're just looking and clicking and going through everything. It's so much easier. I just like send the ask into Copilot and say like, hey, give me a list of the top 50 things in TripAdvisor. Okay, make that into a table. Assess them by, here's the makeup of my family. What would this kind of a group enjoy? And give it a ranking. And then like I'll send that out to the family and like, hey, what are the things that you're interested in doing? Here's, I think, like an order of things that you guys might be interested in. That's it is wild. And one of the things that's interesting is I learned a lot about how AI operates through this process. Because I built this infrastructure of like, okay, I've got this place where I'm planning, and when I'm building my plan, I don't want any tampering in the plan. And so I built a collaboration space with my family. So Copilot's in this collaboration space. We're in a group chat with Copilot, and people are throwing out ideas and what I want to do and all that kind of stuff. Then I've got this other place where I'm adding things formally to the plan. And I take a document and upload it from one side to the other side to like share, okay, here's where the plan is right now. What else do we want to talk about? In doing that, I spent at one, this was kind of frustrating. I spent like one morning where I was just like on the thing for like 3 hours planning something. And by the end of it, I said, okay, now give me a readout of everything on the plan. And it was like complete crap. Like it was like, I just spent like 3 hours talking to you about what I wanted. How come you don't remember?
Oh,
And I asked Copilot the questions and explained to me the concepts of like what it does for long-term memory, what it does for scrolling memory, like all these
mhm.
things. I was like, I did not know these things. And so now I'm able to
Oh,
more effectively like build these things out in the future.
cool. See, you learn just by using, right? That's a
That's it.
that there's a key takeaway that if you don't know what to do, you just start playing with it and start using it,
And if you don't know what to
and
do,
then ask the model.
that's the thing, right? Like this is the beautiful thing. Like if you don't know what to do, just ask it what you should do.
All right, Jay. Well, we're winding down now. Is there any final advice you want to give to the Wake Forest community or anything you want to say? Obviously, before you come back for homecoming, but anything else you want to say on the podcast to our millions of listeners out there?
Apart from the fact that they should be listening to Deeks.ai every chance they get, is that apart from that, you mean?
Your royalty check will be in the mail, Jay.
No, hey, like I appreciate this opportunity. This the Wake Forest community is something that's like near and dear to me. It's just a very unique group of individuals. You walk down the street, you see someone that's a deacon, and you end up talking for like 5, 10 minutes, and I'll walk away from those conversations, and my wife's like, "Oh, did you go to school together?" I'm like, no, I don't know that person. That doesn't happen when you go to Penn State. That doesn't happen when you go to these larger schools. So what I would say is like, find any opportunity you can to give back. And, if you're in this domain, in this world, contact Ryan and Michael and just, see if you can get yourself on here too.
Contact us at deeks.ai at wfu.edu.
That's two checks, right, right, Ryan?
Pennies on the dollar, Jay.
No, this has been great. I love what y'all are doing. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking to us.
Cheers.
Thanks again to our guest, and thanks for listening to the Deeks.ai podcast. Please continue to follow the AI discussion by subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you have any comments, questions, or would like to join the discussion, please email us at deeks.ai@wfu.edu.